Welcome back. We continue with breaking news this afternoon. Nosiviwe Mapisa-Nqakula becoming the new Speaker of the National Assembly. The position was left vacant when Thandi Modise stepped down after only 2 years into her term. Let's continue with reaction and speak to Democracy Works Foundation Associate Leslie Dikeni. Thank you so much. Is it Leslie or Leslie? Leslie, thank you for making time. Your reaction to this development this afternoon in Parliament?
Yes, Clement, first of all, let me answer this question in this way. That our democracy in South Africa is maturing and has been maturing over the years. But most importantly for me, is our democracy and especially civil society democracy. Mm-hmm. I think that our democracy is lacking in Parliament. Parliament is lagging. It's not maturing enough. It's in fact immature. It has to be said. Why do I say so? I say so because I actually, contrary to many other commentators, do not see this debate as an important debate. Mm-hmm. Right? I think it's an internal debate in Parliament. They need to account to us. We need to know who they finally decided should be elected. Frankly speaking, people out there don't care about who becomes a speaker. And I'm saying this because I just finished taking my vaccine. And the thing I was worried about, instead of worrying who's going to be elected, was, did I get vaccinated? And the number of people who are dying, and the recent events that took place within the country of looting. Those are the kinds of issues that people are worried about. Yeah. So I find it very difficult. It's not such a key, important national debate that we need to have.
Yeah. Some people will argue, Leslie, that this is probably the third most powerful position in the country. This is the leader of the third arm of the state. So you need someone who represents accountability. You need someone who's able to rally different political parties in Parliament and ensure that the integrity of Parliament is kept. And if you don't have someone who, at the very least, is observed in that way, that somehow erases and affects the credibility of Parliament.
You agree, Clement. But the most important point here is that we do have systems and structures in place, don't we? We have parliamentary processes. We have what has been created. And in fact, I was talking to a friend of mine earlier on. He was saying, but do numbers really count in who's going to be elected here? We know who is the majority party. You know, I think it's important for that democratic process to take place internally in Parliament, but with the specificity of it, of who they really think. Frankly speaking, I don't care if it's the DA, EFF, ANC, whoever. I'm simply saying that the nature of the debate must mature. They must show us maturity in democratic thinking. And that's what I'm doing. And I'm generic because I think you've dealt with the specificities of Nqakula.
Here's one of the issues there. Here's one of the big issues is conflict of interest. She's the former Minister of Defense. There's currently a process in Parliament to investigate the response of law enforcement agencies to the recent unrest. She was part of the security cluster, so her name was going to come up. So Parliament will have to deal with that report, right? She will have to preside. There's an investigation by the Joint Committee of Defense looking at the allegations that she received bribe from a defense contractor. This is the Speaker of Parliament. These are parliamentary processes that are looking into her behavior and into her actions. And yes, you can ask the Deputy Speaker to preside over a sitting if they're dealing with those reports. But at the end of the day, she's the Speaker of Parliament facing these allegations. Doesn't look good, does it?
You got me there. But anyway, let me rephrase. I think we are correct. But I think I don't want to oversimplify the fact. All those things that you're referring to, the rule of law must take its course. Huh? What is at the they've got interests. What are our interests as a public? Right? You have to measure public interest with their interests. Those are their intent. And in any political democratic system, you'll have different political parties with different interests. Those squabbles are going to happen as it happens. But in some other countries, at least, there's a sense of maturity in that discourse that takes place in parliament. In ours, it's turning worse and worse and worse. And that's the point I'm making. So that then the issue, as for me, right, analytically and sociologically, I would say if we're debating the issue of a minister of finance, I'd be very much worried. If we're debating the issue of the president, I'd be worried, right? If we're discussing minister of police who must replace, that kind of a debate I can tolerate. But the fact that an administrative function of how to keep order in parliament and how to make South Africa look dignified in the world, really it's a minor issue. The issue here, and the amount of time that they really wanted to spend on this issue, because speculations were that this debate will continue for a while. The country is burning now, right? We have people, we have the recent events that affected the country in such a bad way. I'm not trying to reduce your program into nothing, but I think, let's think. And I think the message for us as a public is to say to these guys, across political parties, ideological spectrum, political thinking, hey, show us some maturity, respect us.
How should the parties show maturity? Parliament has been found wanting before. You'll know with the Nkandla matter. I mean, the Constitutional Court said they failed to hold the executive to account. That's a serious indictment, and I think that's why we have to be very, very careful and place so much discussion and so much, significant chunk of our discussions on what happens there, because they failed us before, right? So how do you think political parties must mature so that at the end of the day, with all their differences, the work of parliament continues, and we're not going to sit again with a parliament that fails to hold the executive to account?
But do exactly what you said, Clement. You've said it. You've answered yourself in the question that we are posing by putting emphasis on political discourse issues that matters, that needs urgent attention in the country, right? You've mentioned them, the Nkandla story, maybe the Zondo Commission, the corruption that is going on within the country, the abuse of police, those kinds of things, poverty, inequality, patronage that is taking place within the country. Those are the issues, Clement, I think we should be focusing on. Those are the things that I think they must think of spending more time on. In other words, they must be very selective on what issues. And in fact, if to the opposition parties, they must think very, very carefully what are the issues that matters to deal with the ruling party. We have an opposition party. We have opposition parties. I wish they were stronger to be able to challenge the current ruling party more than that. In that way, they'll be defending society, they'll be defending the interests of society.
And defending democracy.
And defending democracy.
Leslie, thank you for coming through.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for making time. It's with Democracy Works Foundation as an associate there, Leslie Dikeni.